I bought gifts for my entitled stepfamily's kids, but they opened airhorns, silly string, and slap bracelets. Chaos ensued. I shared this in r entitled parents, https www.reddit.com r entitled parents, and it was recommended that you might find it engaging here. I have made some minor edits to align with Rule 11 for this subreddit. Enjoy. Summary at the end. This story begins a year and a half before my plan was implemented. Earlier in the year, my father sensibly proposed that, due to the increasing size of our family Christmas gathering, we should refrain from exchanging gifts for a generation in order to alleviate financial pressure. At that time, I was facing challenges with my business and athletic career, while my wife, then girlfriend, was pursuing her second master's degree. I proposed a draw from a hat for gift exchanges, but he insisted on spoiling all his grandchildren. I agreed to contribute towards my grandmother's cruise and purchase gifts for my step-siblings, but warned against any extravagant expectations. Cast of characters for that Christmas gathering. Me, 28 years old at that time, a heavyweight mixed martial artist and strength coach, also known as a minor athlete, juggling a day job to barely cover rent while training full-time. Martha's stepsister, approximately 40, an aging mother whose physical attributes have declined to the point of being unremarkable, leaving her with few discernible personality traits. Jane, my eldest niece, aged 12, the daughter of my stepsister, embodying the most cliché traits of a self-absorbed preteen amplified by a factor of 1,000. Tim, my oldest nephew, age 9, the son of my stepsister, irrefutable evidence that one can exhibit rude behavior at any age. Robert, stepbrother, 36, once a cool guy who surrendered to life's mundanity upon becoming a father, later regaining just enough determination to engage in physical confrontations with his wife. Tammy, 6, my brother's daughter, a sweet and timid girl who is frightened by my mere existence. In my humble opinion, she is the wisest of the group. Bubba, 7, my brother's son, a generally pleasant child who, at that time, was beginning to adopt unpleasant behaviors after being frequently told to look up to and imitate Tim. Tammy had brought a Nintendo DS, and all the children were struggling to share it. I foolishly offered my own DS to ease the situation. Tammy agreed to share with Jane, and Bubba consented to share with Tim. Having unwittingly deprived myself of an escape from social interactions, I made my way to the living room to procure an age-old solution to avoid engaging with others' alcohol. Before I even had time to pour a drink, my trained ear caught the unmistakable sound of one child assaulting another coming from the children's room. I politely suggested to Robert that he might want to check on the situation, but he seemed indifferent, having not cared about anything for approximately 7 years, so he dismissed it while I went to investigate. Upon entering the room, I observed that while Tim may be a rude child, he was not lacking in talent, managing to strike, shove Bubba into a wall, and kick him simultaneously while attempting to play my DS with his free hand, all while thinking his turn had started the moment I left. Jane had simply taken the DS from Tammy, who sat in the corner in tears. I called out for Martha, informing her that if she did not intervene within 10 seconds, I would have a serious conversation with the children. She arrived and separated them, allowing me to reclaim my DS. Instead of teaching Tim about sharing and appropriate behavior, she began to scold Bubba, the child being assaulted, for not simply handing over the DS to her, little angel, and making her son look foolish. Jane emitted a dramatic teenage sigh and tossed the other DS to the sobbing Tammy. At that point, I excused myself from the gathering, grateful to dodge the responsibility of gifting any presents to those children. 6 months later, my firm belief in atheism was reinforced when Robert called, leading to the following conversation. Robert, hey, elbow smash, while I genuinely appreciated the gifts last year, you should really consider getting something for the kids this year since Christmas is all about the children. Me, no, I show up to socialize with you, Dad and Grandma. I don't care about your kids. Robert, that's a harsh comment regarding my children. Don't you like them? Me, you cared so much about them that during the last gathering, you couldn't be bothered to address a situation where your son was being assaulted. Robert, Tim is a good kid. Martha said he was just having a rough day. Me, he was literally attacking your child. You hesitated to post pictures on social media for a week because of the bruising. If Tim were an adult having that kind of bad day, I would have had a frank discussion with him and persuaded him to lie on the floor peacefully until the police arrived. Robert, my stepsister, and I were discussing this, and we think you should purchase things for the kids next year instead of us. Me, I'm quite fine with not buying anything for you, but I absolutely refuse to buy gifts for Martha's children, especially since she encourages that kind of behavior. Robert, well, if you aren't going to buy something for all the kids, then you shouldn't get anything at all. It's unfair if you don't treat them in the same manner. Me, consider it done. Now, I am sure they wished it had concluded so simply, but that was not the case, and I certainly would not have shared such a lengthy narrative had it been that straightforward. Thank you for your patience thus far. We are almost at the conclusion. A few months later, about 2 weeks before Christmas, I received an email from my father containing links to various toys, primarily from Toys R Us, which was still operational at that point. When I called him to inquire about the email, the following conversation unfolded. Me, hey, what's up? I got your email. What's this all about? Dad, those are gifts for the kids for Christmas. Me, that's fine if you're getting them, but I'll just watch when they open them. Dad, no, that list is for you to buy those gifts. Me, I don't shop for that generation, remember? I've already sent you my contribution towards Grandma's cruise. Dad, you need to get things for the kids. Don't you want them to see you as an uncle? Me, not exactly. Also, what aspect of my life suggests that they should regard me as any sort of role model? You would be better off encouraging them to aspire to become rock stars. Dad, that's not the point. Christmas is about the children. If you don't buy them those gifts, I won't put your name on the card for Grandma. Me, that's a rather unfair thing to do, especially since I've already contributed to that. Dad, will you purchase the items or not? Me, well, I guess my name won't be appearing on that card then. This is going to cost me more than a month's rent, so you can take this list and shove it. Dad, interrupting, calm down. This is what they want. Me, I will get them something small, but I refuse to take out a loan for this. Dad, okay, just make sure it's something they will appreciate. Me, if the items I buy do not put huge smiles on each of their faces, I will buy you dinner at a steakhouse of your choice. Dad, that's the spirit. Talk to you later. Thus, Christmas arrived, and my wife and I had not only purchased one gift but 4 for each child, beautifully wrapped. My father, correctly, assumed they were all likely from the dollar store, but they were well wrapped, and he gave me an approving glance as I placed them beneath the tree. My wife and I chatted for a while and then suggested that since we had brought several gifts for each child, they should open one early to keep busy while waiting for dinner. Their parents, of course, agreed, as it provided them with additional reasons to ignore their children while discussing them instead. They sent us off to distribute gifts to their kids, and Martha appeared particularly smug. As the children began to unwrap their gifts, I prepared the camera while my wife went to retrieve our coats, and I lingered just long enough to capture the delighted expressions on each child's face. Less than a minute later, the first blast from the air horn, Tim's gift, resonated down the hallway, audible to my wife and me as we proceeded to the elevator. I have no idea how much of the bulk pack of silly string, Tammy's gift, or the 36-pack of off-brand markers, Bubba's gift, ended up on the walls, but I do know they repainted the premises the following month. Whether the slap-on bracelets we procured for Jane ended up on her arms and legs as their parents attempted to handle the chaos will remain a mystery. Nevertheless, I like to think they ended up adorning their parents in a throwback to the 1980s before Boxing Day. I may never find out if they opened the rest of their gifts. Everyone received a copy of each other's gifts for the sake of fairness, plus a selection of questionable and somewhat inappropriate temporary tattoos. In the pandemonium, neither my wife nor I was noticed as we left. I am certain they eventually discovered the elegant gold envelope addressed to the parents beneath the tree. Inside was a beautifully designed card, entirely blank except for the following note. This was a warning shot from off the top of my head. I have an entire year to plan creatively for the next time. Merry Christmas, E. I never treated anyone to a steak dinner. However, I did enjoy several more Christmas celebrations with my grandmother and father until they passed away, and I ultimately ceased seeing that side of the family altogether. No further mention of this incident or gifts for the children was ever made again. Summary: my entitled stepfamily convinced my father to pressure me into purchasing gifts for each of their children, despite my not being obligated to buy for that generation. They received exactly what they merited: gifts that included air horns, a rainbow pack of markers, silly string, slap-on bracelets, and a substantial supply of mostly inappropriate temporary tattoos. Each. Edit: thank you immensely for the awards, everyone, particularly for my first gold. However, remember that your local food bank and its patrons require assistance more than my post needs icons accompanying it. So, if you appreciated my festive tale of revenge, it would bring me greater joy to see you help those in need rather than sending money to Reddit. Edit: 2 names were altered at the request of the moderators. Story 2. Started a charity event at a supermarket, confused a customer, accused of flirting, then learned I'm not even staff. What a mix-up. Today's story of bewilderment and frustration originates from the year 2022, in a supermarket adorned in orange hues, where the automatic doors have a peculiar habit of never fully closing. Situated in an old-fashioned realm that describes itself as united while frequently engaging in debates about increasing independence. It seemed to be a day filled with overly enthusiastic individuals, baffled employees, and unwarranted mental strain, all in the noble pursuit of improving someone's experience. Side note: if it's apparent that I struggled to find a suitable beginning for this narrative and crafted something simply for my own amusement, I will now abandon the feigned medieval tone. The moment I entered the supermarket, which would be my workplace for the subsequent 4 hours, it was evident that this day was going to be one of those occasions. Burdened with a promotional banner on each shoulder and a collection of informational leaflets in tow, I was already feeling the weight. With a 9:30 start following a couple of hours of travel, I was also slightly sluggish. Admittedly, this is often my default state, but fatigue doesn't help. After pausing in the lobby to gather my thoughts, I was swiftly approached by a woman we shall refer to as decaffeinated. Decaffeinated? Do you have decaffeinated to-go cans? Me, pardon. Decaffeinated decaf coffee. Do you carry it? Me, I would assume so. There must be a coffee section somewhere. Decaffeinated? Your coffee section is refrigerated. Me, I'm really sorry, I don't quite understand. At this point, I desperately wish to set the banners down. Decaffeinated? All I want is my can of coffee. Surely you know where to find it. Me, no, unfortunately, I've never been here before. Decaffeinated? Well, why are you dressed in a suit then? Me, what? Excuse me, what? Decaffeinated? You are entirely useless. Is there a manager present who is of higher authority here? Note: I should have recognized the nature of this interaction by this point but did not. Me, no, I'm alone here. Decaffeinated? What do you mean? Me, I'm here to manage my stand. Decaffeinated? What? What are you talking about? All I want is information on where I can find my coffee. Me, I genuinely have no clue. Decaffeinated storms off. Feeling a bit disconcerted and still exceedingly tired, I made my way to the customer service desk where I encountered an enthusiastic yet dim-witted customer service assistant. We shall call her Peppy. Peppy, how may I assist you today? Me, hello. I'm here representing a charity, and we're hosting an information event here today. Peppy, that sounds thrilling. Me, yes, it is. It's always wonderful to connect with people in the community. Where would you like me to set up? Peppy, beaming smile. Remains silent. Me, is the event coordinator available for a discussion? Peppy, who is that? Me, I have been in communication with Charlotte Smith. Peppy, I'm not familiar with her. Me, is there someone else I could speak to who might know her? Peppy, I'm not sure. We can ask Charlie. Me, all right, could you page them for me? Peppy, I'd love to. I really enjoy using the intercom. With a literal skip in her step, Peppy turned to the intercom and altered her accent to something resembling the Queen's English, but if it had been misheard underwater. This detail adds no significance other than its oddity. Peppy, please hold on, and I'm certain we can. Decaffeinated? Oh my goodness, can your flirtation pause so I can simply pay? Peppy, I'm genuinely mortified. I didn't mean to imply that I was flirting. You're a bit older for me. Me, pardon, what now? Peppy, I'm genuinely flattered, but I'm really not interested. I need to focus on my studies, and I think someone around my age would be more appropriate. Decaffeinated? It is extremely unprofessional for a manager to be flirting with an impressionable young employee, especially when she is clearly expressing disinterest. You should step back and let her attend to customers. Is he, in fact, harassing you? Peppy, oh no, he has been quite kind. Me, I'm not who you think I am. Peppy, I'm sure you are delightful for someone of your age. Decaffeinated, I don't care how important you claim to be. It's repugnant to prey on young, naive women. I demand to speak with someone regarding this incident. Up to this point, I had been somewhat vague about my actual purpose for being there. I work for a charity focusing on research, law, and advocacy, but primarily as a source of varied, yet hopefully beneficial, information to help others improve their lives. To maximize this, I periodically visit community venues and make myself available free of charge to see if I can assist. This is a fulfilling endeavor when I can provide help, but it can be profoundly affecting to hear stories from people who find themselves in difficult circumstances through no fault of their own. On this particular day, a supermarket was chosen, hence the current situation. With this newfound context, I had concerns on multiple levels. On the personal level, I was contemplating what reaction would be fitting for this moment. How could I convey the horror of being accused of something while ensuring there was absolutely nothing wrong with the employee? This was further complicated by my highly expressive face, which has a tendency to do as it pleases. I needed to choose my words carefully to avoid exacerbating this situation. There are countless words to select from, and many would likely have negative connotations. Lastly, on a personal level, my shoulders were beginning to burn. Pop-up banners are constructed with sturdy metal and quickly become unwieldy, and I had been holding them for a considerable duration. On a broader level, I was being accused of something rather serious, and my presence was intended to facilitate discussions with vulnerable individuals who need assurance in my integrity to trust me and open up for support. It is tough enough when one looks like a shrunken version of Hagrid and speaks with an accent akin to a posh Londoner attempting a Cockney dialect. In truth, it feels as though someone took my fair lady and wondered if it could be reversed. Public allegations are decidedly not conducive to building that trust. I needed to take immediate, precise, and effective action. I'm sure that. But I truly don't. Oh dear. Charlie, oh Mr. Me, I am so pleased that we were able to get you into our store. I had been rescued. Decaffeinated, oh, you're just another one of his leeches, are you? Well, the behavior I've witnessed is appalling, and I think disciplinary measures are warranted. Charlie, I'm sorry, madam, but what exactly occurred? Decaffeinated, your manager gestures at me was rude and unhelpful when all I wanted was to know where the cans of coffee were. Gestures to the can in her hand. He directed me to the tea and coffee section. Can you imagine? Then I attempted to purchase this and some cigarettes, and he was practically ogling this young girl. It's just revolting. Charlie, Peppy, are you all right? Peppy, yes, why? Charlie, why did you call? Peppy, this gentleman is here for a charity event and wishes to speak with Charlotte Smith. I wasn't familiar with her, so we figured it was best to consult you. Charlie, Peppy, I am Charlotte Smith. Peppy, really? Charlie, yes, Charlie can be an abbreviation for Charlotte. Peppy, is that so? Charlie, yes. Decaffeinated, is this really relevant? Side note, reflecting on this now, I recognize that I need to be more assertive on certain occasions. Charlie, did me say anything inappropriate to you? Peppy, no. I simply thought I had been overly friendly again. You mentioned I should be more cautious. I tend to give people the wrong impression. Charlie, Miss gestures at Decaffeinated, would you please share what you witnessed? Decaffeinated, they were conversing for an extended period. I am busy. I need to purchase my cigarettes and leave. Charlie, did you see or hear anything inappropriate? Decaffeinated, well, the body language. And just look at how red his face is. Clang, I had finally dropped one of the pop-up banners. I decided to let the other one fall as well. What did it matter now? Charlie, you mean the gentleman who is holding two heavy banners. Decaffeinated, why is he carrying those? Charlie, for the stand he is operating. Decaffeinated, what stand? Charlie, for the charity he represents. Decaffeinated, he works for you. Charlie, no, he does not. Decaffeinated, yes, he does. He stated so when I inquired about the coffee location. Me rather meekly. No, I didn't. I did mention I had not been here before. Decaffeinated, pauses. You did indeed say that. Me correct. Silence. The kind of silence where it feels like everyone is contemplating what to say next, which drags on too long without utterances. During this silence, the queue for cigarettes and lottery tickets continues to grow. Charlie, so me, would you like to accompany me to set up? Should we address? Charlie, let's not. and we moved away. We discussed how peculiar that encounter had been and how she intended to speak to Peppy afterward. She left me to prepare, but returned shortly to apologize once more. It turned out that Decaffeinated attempted to demand free items due to the inconvenience and threw a tantrum when Peppy denied her request. Security had politely escorted her out, and hopefully, after a conversation with Peppy, though I cannot confirm this, she had realized this was an issue of her own making rather than something external. The day had begun in a frenetic manner, and it was only going to become more perplexing, convoluted, and irritating as I encountered a group of particularly demanding customers a couple of hours later. However, that is a story for another time. I apologize for the lengthy account. Brevity is not my strong suit. If you would like to hear more, please let me know. I do not wish to waste the subreddit's time if this is not of interest. Final thoughts. First, greetings to all you who browse ahead. I would certainly do the same. The words utilized are as close to my recollection as possible. Where I may have forgotten exact phrasing, I endeavored to find suitable replacements to capture the tone and sentiment while maintaining an entertaining narrative. In cases where an actual name was essential to the story, it has been altered, but gender ambiguity has been preserved. I apologize once more for the length. Lastly, I hope you found this narrative engaging, and I wish you a wonderful day, free from anyone who complicates your life unnecessarily. Story 3. OMG, found out my FWB was sleeping with my friend too, all while he was telling me he wanted to be friends. What a betrayal, exploding head. I had a friends with benefits arrangement with a man in another country. I do not desire a relationship with him due to our current situations, yet we both care about each other. He has fluctuated in our connection, grappling with significant emotional issues, including his belief that he needs to improve by reducing his focus on sexual matters. I discovered that he had been involved with a friend while I was simultaneously seeing him during a visit to his country, and he misled me by not fully disclosing this, which breached our established rules and boundaries. I insisted that I did not want to be involved in his complications and only wanted to learn about other matters if they might impact me. This undeniably fits that description. He is now distancing himself from me and refuses to communicate, despite previously expressing a desire for friendship and my having done nothing incorrect. I am not interested in hearing remarks about how foolish friends with benefits arrangements are or that I developed feelings. I recognized what this was all along, but I am frustrated that he deceived me and made everything excessively complicated. I have been involved with a man in another country for approximately a year and a half. Our initial meeting was devoid of any romantic interaction, but I felt a natural connection that started out as platonic and found myself quite attracted to him. I was unaware that he shared my feelings until after I returned home, and he continued to text me, with our exchanges gradually becoming more intimate. I am quite open and comfortable regarding my sexuality, emotions, and limits, and I was receptive to this progression. However, our connection has not been easy. He has withdrawn from me on several occasions, at times claiming to be overwhelmed with work. He works demanding hours, which I have experienced firsthand, and at other points experiencing a complete emotional breakdown, expressing feelings of inadequacy and a desire to improve by avoiding sexual topics. He has mentioned feeling empty or numb. Each time he eventually returns, and I take a moment to rebuild trust that he will be consistent, but I eventually feel secure enough to explore intimacy again, only to have the cycle repeat itself. I have tried to discuss these issues with him to understand what is happening in his mind. Occasionally, he has calmed down, but at times, he completely withdraws and does not communicate with me for weeks. We last met about 6 months ago, engaged in intimacy, then he immediately began to panic about his desire to improve and his inability to continue this arrangement. He also accused me of altering the atmosphere because I was upset that, just 2 hours after our encounter, he decided to end things without providing a coherent explanation. It felt like a flood of regret and guilt that strained our relationship temporarily. Ultimately, we managed to move past that and were okay. He last experienced a breakdown in the fall, during which he said hurtful things when he expressed a desire to reconnect while I was not on board, prompting me to understand that he views friends with benefits differently than I do. At that point, I was quite transparent about my pain, believing that he at least cared for me and that there was more to our connection than just being a source of pleasure for him. He lost control, and we ceased communication for about a month because of the damaging things he said. When he re-emerged, we had some sincere conversations about my desires for this arrangement. 4 rules: 1. I want honesty. 2. I want to be treated with respect. 3. I don't want to know about your other relationships unless they directly affect me. 4. Don't involve me in your issues, which I had clearly stated from the beginning. And he assured me that he could adhere to these guidelines and made meaningful efforts to reconcile. He also admitted that he liked me, though he believed the timing for a relationship was not right currently, and suggested that it might be in the future, which I accepted. Everything seemed fine until we saw each other again a few weeks ago. Following our encounter, when I reached out to him the next day, he expressed feelings of emptiness and numbness and declared that he no longer wished to engage in sexual activities with me because he wasn't prepared to take that leap. I attempted to discuss this with him, but he just shut me out, stating that he did not know what was wrong and could not resolve it overnight, but he wanted to remain friends, saying nothing needed to change aside from the sexual aspect. I felt frustrated but accepted his decision, yet as time passed, he started distancing himself while continuing to communicate with our mutual friend, who had always been close to him. She was also present during the earlier panic 6 months ago and met him 3 months after I did. I am sure you can foresee where this is leading. A week after he ended things, he experienced a social media outburst, posting numerous old photos over a short time frame. He is typically not very active on social media, so this was unusual, culminating in a picture of him with a bottle of gin. I am talking about 20 new posts on his feed. I became concerned for his well-being and mentioned it to our mutual friend, who was unaware of our physical relationship but recognized that our interactions were more than platonic, including flirtation and discussions of feelings. During our conversation, we both discovered that we had both been intimate with him simultaneously 6 months ago while we were all staying together, and that he ended things with both of us on the same day. I confronted him about this and expressed my intense anger because he had lied to me and completely violated all my established boundaries in one fell swoop. He apologized and took my fury well, for which I later felt remorse and offered an apology, and he assured me that there had been no continuation of anything with her after that incident, and certainly not during the latest trip. She confirmed this, but hinted that he had been seeking her attention during our initial discussion. This felt like a competition over who won his favor, another issue, but it also affected me. I began to ask him questions in the following week, and he reluctantly responded, especially as I felt like this situation was placing the blame on me. He isn't ready for a sexual connection, yet had an ongoing relationship with her 6 months before, and he kept attempting to restart things with me. None of this made logical sense, and I wanted clarity. Ultimately, he stated that he had no clear reason for wanting me in his life. He simply does not actively push people away, which is why he continued to communicate with me, a statement that was devastating for me to hear. He concluded with a suggestion that we might become friends in the future, but that he didn't want the guilt of living a single life and enjoying himself while feeling numb and guilty every day. This situation was never about him being with other individuals. It was about his dishonesty and the breach of trust I had in him as someone with whom I shared my body and personal thoughts while being transparent about what I needed to feel secure in doing so. I have been striving to remain empathetic while processing the ramifications of 2 friends misleading me by omission for months, a challenging ordeal that has left me feeling shattered. To be transparent, I do have feelings for him, but I recognize that considering the distance and his past relationship pattern, an exclusive relationship is not feasible at present, and I am at peace with that. As long as my needs are fulfilled, I am indifferent to what else he chooses to pursue. I have other aspects of my life to focus on. My concerns stem from his dishonesty and clear violation of my boundaries, and now he is distancing himself, attributing his guilt to me. I feel utterly unsettled at the moment. I realize I need to separate myself from this relationship. I sent him a message stating that I am here if he wishes to reach out, but will understand if he needs time away from me, though he still hasn't read it, so I will step back, and I am seeking support from my therapist to process these complicated emotions, but I feel overwhelmed. I feel as if I did something wrong even though I know that I did not. I am not seeking advice, but rather venting and perhaps looking for affirmation that my feelings regarding this situation are valid, despite his anger towards feeling guilty for reasons unknown to me.